The cowardly Parkland deputy is found not guilty. The Rust movie armorer has some more trouble. And a Florida woman's charges have been reduced because, well, it's Florida. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. As you can see, we are not in the Crime Talk studios. I am in a very nondescript conference room at an undisclosed courthouse because I have a sentencing on a homicide case this afternoon. But we're still going to try to bring you some information today and, well, wish you all a happy 4th of July in case we don't speak between now and the holiday. All right. So let's go ahead and open the docket for June 30th, 2023, and shall we begin? All right, Scott Peterson. Yeah, not that Scott Peterson, the Sheriff Deputy Scott Peterson, who was a former school resource officer, a sheriff deputy. Well, he has been found not guilty of neglect and other crimes as he fled to safety as 17 kids and teachers were gunned down at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School several years ago. And what got Scott Peterson in trouble was that the security video showed that at 36 seconds after Nick Cruz, the shooter, who didn't get death because the jury couldn't make a unanimous decision, started shooting, Peterson exited his office about 100 yards from the 1200 building and jumped into a cart, and two unarmed civilian security guards accompanied him. They arrived at the building within about a minute. Peterson got out of the cart near the east doorway of the first floor hallway. Cruz was at the hallway's opposite end, firing a rifle. Now, Peterson, who wasn't wearing a bulletproof resistant vest, did not open the door. Instead, he took cover some 75 feet away in an alcove of a neighboring building, his gun still drawn. He stayed there for about 40 minutes. Long after the shooting ended and the other police officers had actually stormed the buildings. Now, Peterson spent 3 decades working at schools, including 9 at the Stoneman Douglas School. He retired shortly after the shooting, but then was basically fired retroactively, so he couldn't technically could retire. He says he hopes to one day to be able to sit down with the Parkland parents and spouses and let them know the truth. Now, the acquittal concludes the first trial in U.S. history of a law enforcement officer basically not doing anything, and obviously is a school shooting type of case. When this case was charged, I was very skeptical that the prosecution could get a guilty verdict because the theory is just, well, it's bad. You're basically saying you must go and charge into a credibility, even though that's kind of your job, where basically people are firing at you. Yes, you can be a hero or you can be known as a coward. Now, he was acquitted criminally, and so now he's going to be able to collect his pension, which is going to be about $104,000 annually that the taxpayers are going to pay him to go away. So hats off to his defense attorneys. He did a decent job. Part of that was that the defense put on a pretty extensive case where they called in other police officers who said that basically they didn't know where the shots were coming from. So how could you hold Peterson responsible for that as well? I mean, let's face it, you hope the guy would have done something different. He will forever have to live with his inaction, but it's not really surprising that he was found not guilty. So now, next on to the docket. Yes, the Rust armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, has a little more trouble. Now, we brought you the information last week where we talked about Gutierrez-Reed was going to be charged with basically distribution and some other crimes as it related to basically tampering with evidence and trying to, not be completely honest with the police. So it is now alleged that the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, handed a bag of cocaine to another person on the evening after Helena Hutchinson was shot. This is all according to the prosecution. It's an allegation. We'll give her the presumption of innocence. Now, like I said last week, the armorer was charged with evidence tampering on top of her involuntary manslaughter charge. And the prosecuting attorneys allege that they have a confidential witness that will testify that Gutierrez Reed handed off the drugs after returning from her initial police interview. My only question is, did she take them to the interview? That's what I want to know. Anyway, the circumstances of the transfer, the prosecutors believe, strongly support the charge that the defendant transferred the cocaine to avoid prosecution and prevent law enforcement from obtaining highly inculpatory evidence directly related to the defendant's handling of the firearm and the circumstances of the fatal shooting of Helena Hutchinson's. Now, her attorney, needless to say, is not happy and says that the charge is simply vindictive, and they were not giving any notice as it relates to any witness and statements whatsoever. The prosecution says that they want to keep the whistleblower anonymous because they could be blacklisted in the film industry. Now, I got a real problem with this. This person is a witness making serious allegations. Their information needs to be disclosed. They're going to be cross-examined on the witness stand. And I guess the question is why did the drugs go to the confidential witness? Why would the confidential witness take the drugs? Oh, and by the way, where are the drugs? Usually helps a little more convincingly so that drugs were actually involved. And if you have to do it anonymously, and you're not willing to put your name out there, well, got some credibility issues on this one. We'll wait and see what happens. Obviously, we'll give Miss Gutierrez the presumption of innocence, but hey, we'll see how things go for her. Just hang in there. It worked out okay for Alec Baldwin. It may work out for you as well. All right. Next on the docket, a Florida woman by the name of Suzanne Lorenz. She was charged a couple of weeks ago. We brought you this story basically because she fired through her front door. And there was a woman on the other side that was there to confront Miss Lorenz regarding an argument that Miss Lorenz had with the victim's 9-year-old son. Apparently, they had had some problems, and the victim, a Miss Owens, A.J. Owens, went to Miss Lorenz's house to confront Miss Lorenz about being mean to her kids, and there were some allegations that maybe she had possibly threatened the children with some sort of violence in some way. Well, she was arrested. She was originally charged with homicide. Well, guess what? Now she's only been charged with manslaughter. And prosecutor says that she's charged with manslaughter due to insufficient evidence of the murder charge. Frankly, at this point, when we know about the situation in Florida where you can shoot even outside of the residence before somebody crosses that threshold, I'm even surprised she's even charged with manslaughter here whatsoever. Now, she also faces culpable negligence and battery charges as well, but those are obviously not that serious. But it just goes to show you, Florida, you got to be careful. You got to be nice. What have we said? An armed community is a polite community. I mean, obviously, I feel bad for Miss Owens, but it's Florida. You got to be nice to people. You don't know what they're going to shoot on the side and say that they were threatened. Just something to think about.
Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did.
All right. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Now, this also goes into the you can never make this stuff up, but people do it. So after a night of drinking, 2 Arkansas men decided to test the durability of a bulletproof vest. Who hasn't been there? We've all done it, right? Want to know, does it really work? It's just always tough to find somebody to put on the vest. Anyway, the residents in Rogers, Arkansas, a Charles Eugene Ferris and Christopher Hicks, Both ended up in the hospital where they told investigators that they were shot after they were hired for a secret mission that involved someone through the Hobbs State Park. This is all according to the Benton County Sheriff's Office. But when Ferris's wife showed up at the hospital, she had a different story to tell. That's right. The men had been drinking, apparently, on Ferris's back porch, and when he asked Hicks to shoot him, although the vest stopped the bullet, it still left a painful mark on Ferris's chest. Mr. Ferris got upset, even though the bullet hurt, because he asked somebody to shoot him. He then had Hicks put on the vest, and then Ferris unloaded the clip into Christopher's back, according to the arrest affidavit. Well, both men were arrested and charged with felony aggravated assault, and they have each posted a $5,000 bond. Now, a judge issued a no-contact order between the men, and they each face up to 6 years in prison. This is dumb, okay? Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let anyone convince you to let them shoot you, even though you have a bulletproof vest. Just don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. And as we come out and firework season here for the 4th of July, if somebody points bottle rockets like we used to do at each other as a kid, probably don't do it. It'll put out an eye or something along those lines. I get it, but you never know what people are going to do when they're drinking. All right, that's all we have for you today. We're going into a long holiday weekend, 4th of July, my favorite holiday of all the holidays. So have a great 4th of July, and we'll see you next week on Crime Talk.